Hi, this video is going to walk you through the step of creating batch billing from time records in OnTarget. This is a critical step in the billing cycle, and the purpose is to import all time records that are ready to be billed. This function aggregates the units for each client, date of service, and service. For example, if a client has multiple workers in a day for a given service, the units provided by each worker are represented individually on a time record. When batching those time records, the units combine together so that they get submitted on a single claim. The first step in creating batch billing is to click on Time Records, which by default is located under the Billing desktop. This automatically pulls up the time record search grid. There are some filters that you will need to enter first when creating batch billing. You will need to set the In Current Batch filter to No. This ensures that you will only see records that are not already sitting in batch billing. Next, you will need to set the Build filter to No as well. By setting this filter to No, you ensure that your search will only return items that have never been billed. Finally, you will need to set the Eligible for Billing filter to Eligible. This ensures that your search returns only records for services that are eligible for billing. You can set any additional filters, such as a date range or client cost center, and so on, as needed to further restrict the time record search grid. You want your search results to reflect the billing you are attempting to do, so use the filters accordingly for the correct results. There is a lot of information that is returned in this grid. So if this is your first time, be sure to familiarize yourself with all of the different columns and information presented here. This data can always be exported if you wish to drop the information into an Excel spreadsheet, or possibly even just to print the information out. If this is the first time that you are creating batch billing, it is recommended that you create a new view. The view will allow you to save the filter so that you don't have to set them every time you want to run the desired search. After setting the routine filters that you would use per billing cycle, click the Save button. Leave the New View option and give it a name. This view is only visible to your login unless you make it global to all users. To do so, you'd click on the Edit Views button and check Global for this view. With the appropriate filter set, you can now create batch billing from the time records. When you click on Create Batch Billing, you can select from two options. The first is from Selected. This only becomes an option if you have checked individual records that you'd like to batch. This option is helpful only in the event that you do not want to create time records for, in this case, all 126 records. In the event that you do want to create time records for all records displayed here, so for all 126 in this case, then choose the From All option. You may or may not be presented with validations once the processing is completed. These messages inform you of any billing that may be out of compliance. For example, the billing provider number is missing, client has expired consents, employee certifications are expired, units have exceeded the weekly or total maximums, and so on. You can override any validation that has the yellow exclamation point. Any validation with the red X is not overridable. The system is forcing you to get that fixed prior to moving the time record along in the billing cycle. For any validation that is checked as overridden, which can be all of them or individually, you may choose to override the selected validations and continue processing. This will allow the time record to move through to the batch billing screen. If you were to choose Do Not Override and continue processing, the eligible records that are clean for billing would move on to batch while everything else stays in the time record screen. Of the 126 total records, 77 records did not make it to batch billing because they were out of compliance for one reason or another. You may notice some time records that are color-coded. Any time record color-coded in red indicates the time record is in blocked mode. Any time record that is color-coded in blue is in revision mode. These statuses are only in play when notes are implemented. Because it is critical that billing always matches the note documentation, the system will automatically track when the billing and the notes are out of sync with one another. Revision records indicate a note that was at one time approved and has subsequently been unapproved. If that note has not yet been billed but has been imported to time records, the system will place it in revision mode and prevent it from batching until the note is reapproved. You can use the Note Billing Approved column to monitor that status. If the Note Billing Approved box is checked and the time record is in revision mode, it just means that the note has since been reapproved and another import to time records needs to happen. Upon that import, the system will pick up any note edits that affected billing and update the time record automatically in order to reconcile the billing to the note. To re-import the time record, go to the Notes desktop, search for the note, and then click the Create Time Records button. Note that part of this automated process also accounts for rebilling. So if the time record had already been billed, which we would know by the billed column and whether or not a claim number was represented, and the note edit warrants a rebill, then the system will perform the rebill when the time record is created. The blocked status in red indicates that a rebill does in fact need to occur. The rebill cannot yet happen because the original claim has not been adjudicated yet. Once the claim reference number has been applied and the claim is paid or denied, then the system will complete the rebill accordingly. Unlike revision records, which require action and another re-import to time records, there is nothing to do with blocked records other than to monitor them to make sure that they moved from the blocked status to OK. This will indicate that the rebill did occur. You can always verify that activity in the Claims desktop. It is also important to check the search grid for any records that are on hold bill. If a time record is on hold bill, it did not move through to the batch billing stage and rather is remaining here in time records. The easiest way to check for hold bill is by using the hold bill filter. It is important to note that there is one scenario that happens in the system where time records are automatically placed on hold bill. This occurs when an authorization is not marked as approved. So if this service was against an unapproved authorization, the schedule or note was still allowed to take place, but as soon as that event got imported to time records, the system automatically flagged it as hold bill. We will not allow any billing to go out against an unapproved authorization. To take the time record off of hold bill, simply go back to the authorization and mark it as approved. This will release the hold bill flag automatically. You may also take records off of hold bill by simply checking the line and then checking hold bill selected. That will release the hold bill flag. Now that we have successfully created a batch with some of the time records here, we can review those results by clicking on the batch billing desktop. Simply clicking search will display all time records sitting here in the batch. There will be a total dollar amount, total number of records, and total number of units. You can use your filters to look at the totals, maybe by funding payer, by funding source, or by individual service. While adding time manually at batch billing is not the typical process for entering billable time, there may be some instances where you need to manually add batch billing. For instance, adding batch billing manually can be useful in situations where you need to add billable time that is not directly associated with any caregiver. Please note that if your company has implemented notes in OnTarget, the billable time is typically imported from approved notes. That is the recommended workflow. Likewise, with schedules, timesheets, or payroll, your billable time will be generated through time records, and therefore you will import the time to the batch rather than manually keying. It is usually very rare instances to key directly into batch billing, as there is no integration with any other module when doing so. All that said, in order to add batch billing manually, select your client, enter a date, select the authorized service, and enter the number of units provided. Be mindful that you may use the reoccurrence button when you need to enter multiple dates of service in at one time. This allows you to enter billing using either a reoccurrence pattern or by choosing specific dates on the calendar. The next step in the billing process is to create invoices. Please see that video for more information. Should you have any questions about the batching process, please go to Options, Support, and Contact Support.